Welcome to Focus on Faith, the program that brings you portraits of faith from across the nation. Join us as we bring you the faith of men and women from all walks of life who truly represent the spirit of America as we focus on faith.
Greetings, welcome to Focus on Faith. I'm Cindy Anderson, bringing you a worldwide fellowship of Christians in action. Dan Reeves is a former American football running back and coach in the National Football League. Over the course of his 38 years in the NFL, Reeves participated in a combined 9 Super Bowls as player and coach, the second most in league history. He served as a head coach for 23 seasons, primarily with the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. As a player, he spent the entirety of his 8-season career with the Dallas Cowboys. Reeves, a protege of Tom Landry, became the youngest head coach in the NFL when he joined the Denver Broncos in 1981 as vice president and head coach. Reeves guided his Broncos to 6 postseason appearances, 5 divisional titles, 3 AFC championships, and 3 Super Bowl appearances during his 12-year tenure. Reeves served as New York Giants head coach from 1993 to 1996. In his first season, he led the Giants to an 11-5 record and then a berth in the playoffs. Reeves' 1993 season record is the best ever for a first-year Giants coach. A Focus on Faith interviewed Mr. Reeves just after his first season. In 1997, Reeves was named the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Under his command, the team, which had finished the 1997 campaign with a 3-13 record, steadily improved after going 7-9 his first season. Reeves took Atlanta to the greatest season in franchise history. Well, since our visit, literally multitudes of people, young and old, have seen this timeless testimony through public service programming and cable networks. And now it is available through Tele-Missions International's new Life's Lighthouse series of programs. We hope you enjoy this video, and if you like this series, then please leave a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. And please share the video. If you want to check out the entire series of Focus on Faith, then just click the link below. And thank you for watching.
Focus on Faith.
We caught up with Coach Reeves in 1994 after his first year as head coach of the New York Giants. As head coach of the Denver Broncos for 12 years, we wanted to know about the tough decisions that face a head coach in the National Football League.
Well, I think anytime you deal with people, in particular as many people as you deal with on a football team, you know, we have 80 players that we start out with in camp. It used to be over 100 that you'd start out in training camp with. And when you have to make decisions that really affect people's lives, as I said, I've been in the position where you're on one side of the desk and you're talking to a young man who has really been a great player for you for maybe 8-10 years, and all of a sudden, you know, you are saying to him, we're going to make a change, we think we got somebody else that's better than you are, and that person in particular can still or feels like he can still play. Certainly all of the decisions that you have to make, everyone's not going to agree with. And all I can say is that, you know, during the 12 years that I was at Denver, and certainly the past year while I was here with the Giants, I've always tried to use the philosophy that I tried to treat people the way I would like to be treated. Now, within the responsibility that you have of being a head coach, you realize that criticism is one of the things that you're going to come under. And people aren't going to be satisfied or happy with everything you do. You would like for everybody to like you. I would love for everybody to think, boy, Dan Reeves is really great, but I know that's not possible. And so I think the important thing for anyone in any position of authority is that you've got to go through and deal with a philosophy, whatever that philosophy is, And if you feel like that's the right one, you've got to deal with it and be able to look yourself in the mirror every day and say, hey, you know, I did it the way that I thought was the right way. And within that, realize that you are going to make mistakes, and realize that all you can do is pray for guidance. You know, that's something that I think is very important. I always prayed for things, you know. God, just give me the ability to make wise decisions. You know, and I think God listens to I know there's no question that He listens to what we're saying. And I'm not asking God, I want to go out and I want to win football games, but just give me the ability to make wise decisions.
Coach explained that many tough player decisions are made for the good of the team. Decisions that impact the personal lives of players. So we wanted to know more about just how these decisions were made.
Well, I think experience has a lot to do with it. When you look and, you know, it goes back, as I said, every coach had some influence, you know, on me. I think in judging talent comes from, you know, the coaching experience I had of the 16 years at Dallas, of being involved, you know, with coaches there. We used to talk about personnel every night in training camp, so that you kind of got a feel or an idea of what different coaches thought about different players. You would voice your opinion, and I encourage our coaches to do the same. So it's not a decision that all of a sudden Dan Reeves comes up and makes. It's taking the people around you and listening to what they have to say about a situation, and then trying to make a decision based upon everybody's opinion to come up with the correct one. You know, I've done that through the draft. I've done that through, you know, making players' decisions. But there's times when you have to make a decision, and the guy that's got to make it is the guy that's in control. And if you aren't willing to make those types of decisions, those tough decisions, you know, taking everybody's opinion or into consideration, you're in the wrong business, because this is a business that you have to make some tough decisions, and you don't pass them on and say, well, you know, a position coach thought this was the best thing for us to do, so that's what I did. You know, you hired the position coach. You know, you're relying on him a great deal, but don't put the responsibility of something on his shoulders when it's on yours. You know, same thing with quarterbacks. You know, quarterbacks get blamed and given an awful lot of credit for wins, but they get blamed for losses. You know, and a coach is in a similar position. You know, so I've always felt you don't put a quarterback in that same position where, you know, he has enough responsibility all of a sudden that you start pointing the finger at him. You know, you've got to be willing to say, hey, you know, I've tried to teach him and I've tried to coach him, and if we aren't successful, I didn't do a very good job with it, but it's not his fault. He's doing the best that he can. As long as you're getting that type of effort, you know, from your players, that's all you can ask for. So you've got to be willing to stick your neck out and say, hey, this is the decision that I made, and, you know, it didn't work, or it did work, and, you know, we were fortunate people were able to carry it out. But you're going to have to make some tough decisions in this business, and football's not the only one. Anybody that's in a profession and where they're in a position of authority have to come up and make those types of decisions if they're going to be successful.
How impressive, such an incredible career in football. A business filled with tough decisions and responsibility, and what great advice for anyone in a position of authority. And now, 1 year as head coach of the Giants, we asked Coach about his hopes for the future with the team.
When I took the job here in New York, I felt like I was going to an organization that was going to give me an opportunity to realize that dream of trying to win a world's championship. You know, as I said, I think the rules have changed a great deal. You know, with free agency the way it is now, our game has changed. It's going to take some time for us to make the adjustments. I'm not sure right now that we're as good a football team as we were this time a year ago when I came here, because we've lost some players to free agency, and we haven't been able to replace them. So, you know, I don't know how good a football team that we are. All I can do is try to prepare our team as well as I possibly can, ask them to play as hard as they possibly can, and, you know, let things kind of happen as they will. There's no doubt the Dallas Cowboys are the world's champions. They're the team to beat. They happen to be in our division. If you look in our division, we've had coaching changes this year with North Turner at Washington. You know, Norv is an outstanding coach. He was the offensive coordinator, you know, with the Cowboys there. We got Buddy Ryan now in Phoenix with the Arizona football team, and you know, Buddy has shown that he's got the capabilities of bringing a team up to play at a championship level. I thought one of the finest coaching jobs done in our, you know, league last year, you know, was the job that Rich Kotite did with the Philadelphia Eagles. So we are in a tough division, and we've got some changes that have been made within our division. Even the coach of the Cowboys has changed, you know, with Jimmy going, Barry Switzer taking over, but the Cowboys, I think, are still the team to beat. So we got our work cut out for us just within our division alone. But I do think that the Giants give you an opportunity as an organization to be one of those teams that can challenge year in and year out, you know, for our Super Bowl.
Definitely high hopes and aspirations for this team, and hopefully a path to a winning Super Bowl someday. Well, next, Coach Reeves shared with us about the people and influences in his life that helped motivate him as a successful player and coach.
And I think being raised on a farm certainly creates a lot of things, the work ethic and everything, being able to accept responsibilities at an early age, that you had chores that you had to do. All of those things, I look back on it now and say, boy, those really did play a big part in the type of life that I led and how I was influenced a great deal through my, you know, my childhood and through high school and into college. And played, you know, basketball, baseball, and football there at America's High School. We won the state championship my senior year in basketball and baseball. We beat the state champions in football, but, you know, we're not in the playoffs because we lost a game earlier. Be able to go on to college to the University of South Carolina, which was the only school that offered me a scholarship. It was very easy to make a decision. When only one school offers you a scholarship, you take it. And you know, played 4 years there for a coach named Marvin Bass, who again had a tremendous amount of influence on my life. He was one of the first people that I hired when I got the job in Denver, and Coach Bass was with me the entire 12 years I was at Denver. Because he's like a dad to me. Had a tremendous influence on me. He was a very solid person. Again, very much like Coach Landry in it. He was real quiet, didn't say a whole lot. When he did say something, you better listen. And he had a great deal of influence upon me. And so, you know, those early years of having two brothers and a sister, being raised in a Baptist church, a little country Baptist church, being involved in sword drills. You know, I won the association sword drill when I was really little. I could, you know, I could find, you know, John 3:16. I could find it real quick in my Bible and step forward. You know, and being involved in RAs when I was in there, of being a royal ambassador in the Baptist church, of going to camp in the summer times, having a quiet influence of counselors that were Christians had on my life, of accepting God at a very early age when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and being baptized, and remember that very vividly. You know, being baptized years ago, and really going through college and seeing how young people were really around me, didn't have that family Christian feeling that I was raised with, of being involved in going to church, you know, when I was in college, to have something that was stable in my life while I was in college, you know, to be able to rely on. And I think that's something that a lot of our young people miss now, you know, is that God is always there. You know, I think a lot of times the loneliness that you read about or hear about from our young people sometimes, it's just a shame that they don't understand that He's just as far away as you getting on your knees and just start talking to Him, that He's real and He does listen to you. And you know, to have that ability to do that, to always be able to talk to someone that is going to give you an answer and give you guidance and give you leadership, sometimes is something that, you know, hopefully our young people in this country will realize that and come to the realization that there is someone that they can always count on, and they're not looking at an athlete or a coach and say, boy, I want to be like him. That, yeah, because we're going to let each other down. We're going to make mistakes, and people are going to look at it and have you on a big pedestal, and all of a sudden, boom, they're going to be destroyed because of something that happens. You need something, like God that is always there. You can always talk to, and that's something that I had that I think in an early age. That, believe me, my mom has had a tremendous influence on all of us, the children, because when my dad was struggling with drinking, my mother would make sure that we went to Sunday school and church every Sunday. We were going to go to, to BTU meetings on Wednesday night. I mean, we didn't miss anything. And believe me, it's sort of like one of those things when I was talking about when I'm laying on the ground saying, boy, Lord, this is really a blessing. I'm sure that a lot of kids feel the same way. You go through it and you say, boy, I got to go to church today, But it's those things that really help mold me into what I am today, and certainly help me through the difficult times that I think all people go through when you're on your own. When you're in college and, boy, I'm away from home now for the first time, and to have some kind of stabilizing force in your life, to look at it and say, I can do this. I know it's not the right thing to do, but I can do it. I think people that aren't Christians have an easier time of doing it. But if you do feel badly when you do something wrong, then that means that deep down inside, you still have God looking after you, because He's saying, hey, this is wrong. I'm going to get your attention somehow. And God's got my attention a lot of times. Thank goodness. But if I didn't have that when I was little, I can see, and looking back on it, how, because people that say that the types of things as far as sin are concerned aren't fun, never probably participated in anything that was sinful. But when you get that feeling in your stomach that, hey, this is wrong, then that's when God is saying, hey, you want to be like me, this is not the way to do it. And He has a way of getting your attention. I used to tell my kids, because this used to happen to me, a lot of times something happens and the kids are having things happen to them in their life. And the first thing I would say to them, I said, well, are you going to church? Are you taking care of things? Because I can tell you, if things are going the way you're talking about it doing, they're happening to you, it's like one of those things about, why me, Lord? Then I can promise you that you aren't really doing the things and living your life the way it should be lived. And my kids have always come back to me and said, Dad, how did you know that? I said, hey, I don't know. I got the experiences myself, And I think that is only instilled into you. I think as a parent, that's what Pam and I felt like. She was raised in a Christian home, I was raised in a Christian home. To have spent 30 years of my life now with a wife that is a Christian, to have been able to raise 3 children in a Christian home. Pam and I have shared an awful lot of things. I'm more in love with Pam now than I was when I got married in 1964. And, when you look around it, to be able to spend 30 years with someone, you get to know them awful well. To share and to cry and to laugh and all of those things that you do. And to be able to do that, with a woman, that's a tremendous accomplishment. But to have 3 children, to have 2 grandchildren, boy, you look around and you say, God has really been good to me. And then to be in a position that I've been in for the last 13 years, to have one of the coaching jobs, to be a head coach out of the 28 in the National Football League, to do that for 13 years is really something. But also the opportunities that God has put me in position to, hopefully influence other people's lives the same way that Coach Landry influenced my life.
What a testimony on how God continues to work in his life and in the life of his family. And such a beautiful tribute to his love of his life, his wife of 30 years, Pam Reeves. So we couldn't help but want to know more about how his faith has shaped his life.
If I go back to when my dad accepted Christ and we started having a Bible study in our home, at night, I think that really started me studying the Bible, because I could see what kind of influence it was, on my dad, what it was doing to his life, how it was changing his life. And so, I've studied the Bible and read the Bible. As I said, that goes back to when I was a member of our age. You used to learn these scriptures, and if you learn these scriptures, you get to go to camp in the summertime. So even though it was kind of a contest again of trying to see who could learn these scriptures and pass these tests, it's amazing now, today, as I read the Bible every night, it's amazing during the season or during the off season how an experience will happen to you, and all of a sudden you'll go home that night and you take your Bible out before you go to bed, and whether it's a Bible study that you're involved in or whatever, it's amazing how many times that something that you read in the Bible is pertinent to something that it happened to you today. It floors me sometimes how God gets your attention in things and all of a sudden exposes you to the answer. I think that's what my brother was saying years ago. He was saying, you got to pray about this thing. There's not a little bell going to go off sometime. But it's amazing how all of a sudden, if you think you're smart, if you think that you're the one that's doing it, all of a sudden, where did I come up with that idea? That, boy, I'm brilliant. I came up with that idea. I ride along sometimes, and all of a sudden, something comes to my mind, and I know that it's not all of a sudden me that came out. I think God is exposing you to it and say, hey, here's the problem that you were talking about. You have been diligent. You are praying about it. And all of a sudden, what about this as a possibility? Now, he didn't say a little light goes off and said, here's the answer. But all of a sudden, something comes in your mind. You say, wow, that could be the answer to what I've been looking for. And it's amazing how many times that happens. Amazing. If you would diligently read the Bible, and study it. And I've been fortunate because I in Denver in particular, our pastor at the church that we belong to, Mark Brewer, knew the Bible backwards and forwards. He was one of the, probably the most brilliant people in interpreting the Bible I've ever seen. And we used to have a Bible study on Friday morning. He would come over to my house, and we would have a Bible study. And it's amazing how many times, and he had nothing planned. We would come in, we would just talk about what went on during the week. It would be amazing how all of a sudden he'd say, well, turn to, the first chapter of Corinthians and look at the 13th verse or whatever. And he said, I think this kind of relates to what you're talking about. And we would go into it. And, an hour or so later, I would have not only what Mark's feelings were, but also what the Bible said about, something. And it's handled so many different things. So if you will look at the Bible, because there's no question that it's just as real and as true now as when it was written, thousands of years ago, and it can work in your life daily, because it does in mine every day. And people do it differently. I just read mine at night, and it's amazing how many times things come up that are problems that I've had that all of a sudden there it is, and it's in the Bible.
Another incredible testimony of how the Holy Spirit works in his life every day, and how he leans on the Bible for answers to life's challenges. So we couldn't help but wonder, what was his favorite Bible verse?
Well, I think 1 Corinthians 13 is my favorite one, because I think that's kind of the way I look at it. If you love people, if you treat people the way you like to be treated, and I think that's what that whole thing is all about, is about love. That to me is one of the prettiest, chapters in the Bible, and I enjoy reading that. And unfortunately, some of the, the times that I've, listened to that has been at the death of someone very close to me. But again, I think that in itself makes it even more beautiful, because that's a celebration of someone when they have that, we've had here on earth, that all of a sudden, is going to be closer to God. But that to me is, if I had to pick out a special one. There's so many other verses that real too. Psalms is a great book. It has so many great poems and everything that are so beautifully written, you know, by David that I enjoy too. But I'd say if I had to pick out one, you know, 1 Corinthians 13 is probably one I enjoy the most. Believe me, I have an awful lot of people that pray for me, and you know, I could definitely use all the prayers that maybe the people that listen to this have, because you know, I do need God's guidance, and it doesn't mean that the New York Giants are going to be successful, but it does mean that I'm going to be doing it in the right way anyway.
Thank you for joining us today, with our sincere hope that you have been blessed and encouraged with this Focus on Faith timeless testimony. Now, if you want to see more of these unique videos, then please don't forget to leave a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe in order to never again miss any of the upcoming timeless testimonies. By you simply caring and sharing this unique series of programs with others, you can greatly help our channel to reach multitudes for Christ. Now, to quote Reverend Dr. Charles Swindoll says, "No persuasive technique will ever take the place of a personal testimony. If you have not discovered the value of telling others how God can rearrange your life, you missed a vital link in the chain of His plan for reaching the lost." End of quote. So come on, let's get excited by helping this channel spread the good news. Now, in closing, today's timeless testimony may have impacted someone out there, and God is speaking to you right now, and that person wants to commit their life to follow Christ. Friend, I would encourage you to start by reading your Bible and to begin to practice what the Bible says. And I pray that you will get strong in the desire to go out and find a good Bible teaching church to join, and to not let yourself get distracted, please. But rather, you will make this a priority in your life to seek God's will for a new life in Christ. Now, if you want to know more about having a more abundant and fulfilling life, then this booklet I'm holding right here, Beginning with Christ, by Navigators International, is a great way to get started, and I want to send this to you absolutely free. If you'll simply email us at info@telemissions.org and request this free booklet there. And if you have a specific prayer request, let us know. We will include your request in our daily prayer time. Now, for those of you who would like to know more about Tele-Missions International and how this unique ministry got started, just visit our website. That's telemissions.org. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment on our website, and tell your friends about this new and exciting series of programs. We all know the power of a personal testimony, and this and many more classic testimonies like this will continue to spread the light, helping others around the world through God's lighthouse. That's right, God's lighthouse. And this picture of the lighthouse you see here behind me on the stormy shores of the Outer Banks is our hallmark, signifying the importance of Tele-Missions International's ministry reaching out to multitudes for Christ. Now, just think of it. Every timeless testimony that is being broadcast is like a beacon of light, beaming out the good news on the stormy shores of cyberspace, as I like to call it, and it'll go on for decades to come. So please, won't you consider sharing it on Facebook or Twitter, or whatever you can do to help spread that light. Now, thanks again for joining us today. This is Dr. Gordon Anderson, Jr., and I want to share with you our prayer promise, and that is Psalm 121, verse 2. And that says, "My help cometh from the Lord who made heaven and earth." And please remember to start every day in prayer. Now, God's richest blessings as you focus your faith on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Believe me, I have an awful lot of people that pray for me, and you know, I could definitely use all the prayers that maybe the people that listen to this have, because you know, I do need God's guidance, and it doesn't mean that the New York Giants are going to be successful, but it does mean that I'm going to be doing it in the right way anyway.